Okay, guys. So in our previous session, we already have discussed about what is remote sensing, what are the main component of the remote sensing, and how remote sensing works, and what are the different areas where we can use the remote sensing techniques. Now these days, remote sensing techniques are very popular because the reason is many means after coming the drones, there are many things changed, like people are frequently using drones for the surveillance wherever we have very crowd for any particular events or something, then police department, they are using drones for the surveillance, and this will be very easy to basically watch everything instead of putting the people, and they will observe. Better put the drones, and they have the command and control center. From the command and control center, they can easily track. Now today we will discuss about what are the different type of the satellite we have, and second thing is in our previous session we have seen how we are getting the images from the satellite. So the major components we have seen yesterday, and how basically what kind of sensors we have, because as I told you, satellite is basically nothing. Satellite is don't have any basically that equipment which useful to collect the data. Satellite is just a carrier. Satellite is just a carrier. On satellite, we have some sensors. These sensors are basically capturing the energy in the form of the light, and then after it will convert to the image from the ground station. So now, what are the different type of satellites we have? So as you know, each and every satellite have their own orbit. Normally, whenever any country launch the satellite, so like as I already explained you, they always make a plan in such a way so that whenever satellite will basically cover that particular country, that time sunlight will be there. If sunlight will be there, so most probably the time what they preferred means the what the scientists preferred, that is basically between 10 to 11, means 11 to 2 o'clock, because in between 11 to 2 o'clock sun is on the peak, and easily we will get the information. So the orbit basically which all the satellites are following. So based on the orbit, we have three type of satellites. Based on the orbit, we have how many type of satellite? We have three type of satellite, that is LEO, MEO, and GEO. Low Earth orbit, medium Earth orbit, and geostationary orbit. Each and every type of satellite having their own purpose. Means when uh, when any country have planned to launch the satellite, so they have a proper plan कि this satellite we are sending for what purpose, and based on the purpose they will decide कि this satellite we will send in the low orbit or medium orbit or geostationary. Now the thing is, what is the meaning or what is the purpose of these three type of satellite? So whenever we are talking about these three type of satellite, so first of all we have to know what is the approximate height of these satellite, or what are the approximately distance of these satellite from the earth. So the LEO, low earth orbit satellite, normally if the satellite distance is in between 500 to 1200 kilometer, then these kind of satellites called the LEO satellite, or this type of satellites comes under the LEO category, low earth orbit. If if the distance of the satellite from the earth is in between 5000 to 20000 kilometer, then these satellites comes under the category of the MEO. And after that, if the distance of the satellite is greater than or equal to 36,000 kilometer, then these satellites comes under the category of GEO, geostationary. Now we will see basically what are the benefit we have using all these different kind of satellite. So here, this is the a small comparison between the GEO, MEO and LEO. So altitude latency of the GEO is very high, MEO is low, and LEO is very low. Earth coverage, as you know, whenever you will go on the height, then we can cover more space. We can cover more area. So this is very simple. It means if we are working with the Geo will cover very large area. MEO will cover large area, and LEO will cover the small area. Because the altitude of LEO is low, altitude of MEO is greater than the LEO, and altitude of GEO is the highest one. So here, if you have any plan to get the data of entire Earth, if you have any plan to get the data of entire Earth, so if you will go with the geo satellite, so there are only three satellites we required to cover entire Earth. And if we have MEO, then we need six satellites to cover entire Earth. And if we will go with the LEO, then we required hundreds of satellites to cover entire Earth, because LEO is covering very small space. Okay, and because these satellites we have categorized based on the altitude. So definitely whatever the satellites altitude is very high, this satellite will take time for one revolution. So here, whenever we are talking about the orbit period, so orbit period of the GEO is 24 hour, orbit period of the MEO is 2 to 4 hour, and orbit period of LEO is 10 to 40 minute. After that, satellite life. GEO satellite life is very long, MEO is short, and LEO is shorter than the MEO. And similarly, cost also, there is a difference between the cost as well. So if any country want to launch the GEO, then this is very expensive. If any country want to launch the MEO, this is little bit lesser. But if any country want to launch the LEO, so LEO is the cheaper than the other satellites. So these are the general difference between the GEO, MEO, and LEO. So here, if you see about the LEO, so LEO circulate on a low orbit. It is obvious that they exhibit a much shorter period. So as you know, like LEO is always work on the low orbit. So definitely it will take a short period of time to for one round. So here the duration of the LEO is 95 to 120 minute only. Each LEO satellite will only be visible from the Earth for about 10 minutes. So if you are able to see the LEO satellite from the Earth, so we can see like Earth from the 10 minute. A LEO satellite is smaller area of coverage. So as we know, because the LEO satellite altitude is less. If the altitude is less, so definitely it will cover less area. The biggest problem of the LEO concept is need to many satellite if global coverage is to be reached. If I want to cover entire Earth, if I want to cover entire Earth with the help of the LEO, so definitely we have to launch many satellite. After that, a smaller footprint of LEO allow for better frequency reuse, similar to the concept used for the cellular network. So LEO is basically what? LEO, because this is altitude of the LEO is less. So first of all, the frequency means whenever we are talking about the frequency, so we can basically reuse the frequency in telecom, and that we are getting with the help of what? With the help of the LEO. And whenever we are getting any image from the LEO satellite, so its resolution is very high. Means we are getting very clear images using the LEO as compared to other satellites. So this is the ideal characteristics of the LEO. After that, we have the MEO. MEO means medium Earth orbit. So the MEO satellite situated in orbit somewhere between the 6,000 to 20,000 kilometer. MEO satellites are similar to the LEO satellite in the context of the functionality. So basically, functionality wise, MEO satellite and LEO satellite both are almost same. But the important thing is whenever we are talking about the accuracy, whenever we are talking about the clarity of the data, then in that situation, LEO satellite, using the LEO satellite, we are getting more clear data as compared to MEO. MEO satellite have a larger coverage area, and this is very means logically, if you will see, a low orbit satellite is basically cover the small area, but whenever slowly we will go more on the more altitude, then MEO satellite is basically going to cover bigger area than LEO. Using orbit around 10,000 kilometer, the system only require a dozen satellite, which is more than a geo system. Actually, the thing is, situation is same. Ki I want to cover entire Earth. If I want to cover entire Earth, so it's means it's required more than 12 satellite to cover entire Earth if we will go with the MEO. Depending on the inclination, a MEO can cover large populations, so requiring fewer handovers. What is the meaning of this? Ki MEO satellite means if you are taking the image, if you are getting the data exactly from top of the Earth, and if you will try to get the data with some inclination, so definitely if we are going to do with some inclination, then we will cover more area. A MEO satellite distance gives it a longer time delay and weaker signal than LEO because of the higher altitude. So MEO satellite altitude is more than the LEO satellite. Now after that, coming to the GEO. So geostationary satellite. This is very important satellite. This category is very important because the reason is whenever whenever people or whenever any country launch the geo satellite, so the most important thing is why we are saying this is a geostationary satellite. We are saying this is a geostationary satellite because whenever we will see this satellite from the earth, you will feel that it is the static one, it is not moving, because the reason is speed of the geostationary satellite. Speed of the geostationary satellite and speed of the earth both will be the same. And because both is the same, so always you will get what? Always you can see the geostationary satellite as a static. Because of that reason, we are saying this is a geostationary satellite. And where basically most of the cases we are using the geo. Normally whatever the TV channel we are seeing with the help of the setup box, so these TV channel and all is coming from where? Coming from the geo satellite. Like in all the houses, you can see there is a small receiver people are putting on the roof, and that receiver is basically directly connected with the satellite. And why? Basically because see, this is connected with the satellite. Why we are not changing the direction every day? Why we are not changing the direction every day? Because the reason is that that receiver is basically connected with the geostationary satellite. Geostationary satellite means it is exactly its speed is same as the earth speed. Because of that reason, whenever whenever we will see the geo satellite, it will always looks like a stop position. Okay, so the geo are ideal for TV and radio broadcasting. Lifetime expectation of geo are rather high. Yes, that is also very important point. The lifespan of the geo is greater than the MEO. Okay, lifespan of the geo is a greater than MEO. Geostationary satellite have a 24-hour view of the particular area. Why? As I told you, because the reason is its speed is same as the Earth speed. So always you will see this satellite. Geo typically do not need handover due to the large footprint. Geo satellite is covering very large area, because of that reason handover is not required. But the most important thing is launching the geo satellite is very costly. Leo and MEO kind of satellite many countries can launch, but whenever we are coming to launching of the geo satellite, because of very expensive, all countries cannot launch the geo satellite. So these are the major categories we have for the satellite with the context of the altitude. Now after that, coming to the next very important point, which you remember in the last session, I asked you one question. Ki if you don't have camera in your mobile, if you don't have camera in your mobile, and if you want to take a photo, so as you know, like light is very important. Light is very important means if light is not there, then we cannot take the photo. Concept is remains same. Okay, concept is remains same. The only difference is the terminology. So here, based on the sensor type, okay, the last what we have discussed, key type of the satellite based on the altitude. So this is the LEO, MEO, GEO. And now after that, we have two category of the remote sensing, that is depends upon the sensor. So there are two type of sensor we have. One is the active sensor and other one is the passive sensor. So if you remember in the last discussion, if in your mobile you don't have the flash, if in the mobile we don't have flash, then we cannot take the photo in night time. We can get the photo in daytime, but we cannot get the photo in night time. Similarly, what is the passive remote sensing? A remote sensing system which measure energy that is naturally available are called the passive sensor. Means passive sensor don't have their own energy source. Okay? Matlab this kind of system don't have the flash. If I compare with the mobile, so any passive remote sensing don't have the what? Don't have the any passive remote sensing basically don't have its own energy source. Passive sensor can only be used to detect energy when the naturally occurring energy is available. That we already know. If if in your mobile you don't have the flash, so definitely you cannot take the photo in night time. You have to wait till morning. Similarly, here, if in your satellite you have the passive sensor, then we always depends upon the sunlight, because we don't have the energy source. And to get the information about the earth object, we required the energy source. For all reflected energy, this can only take place during the time when the sun is illuminating the earth. Okay, the same thing means if sun is there, sunlight is there, then this kind of sensor easily collect the information about the earth object. There is no reflectance energy available from the sun to night. This we already know. The sun is not emitting any energy in night time. Energy that is naturally emitted can be detected day or night as long as the amount of energy is large enough to be recorded. So means one thing is if you have the energy source, you can easily get the information. But here, what they are telling you, there are some natural energy emittance is there, like human body. Human body is emitting some energy. So basically, we are not depend upon the sunlight. So all the animals, all the human beings, we are basically emitting some energy, and that energy is basically we can easily read or we can easily see with the help of the thermal camera. Like at the time of the COVID, all the airports have put the thermal camera, and through the thermal camera they can detect कि you have fever or not. Anyone have observed this thing? Anyone have travel on that time where the all the airport had some thermal camera?
No, sir, but I've seen that di- defense agencies use thermal scanning to ensure if there are any terrorists hiding out in any places.
Correct,
So,
correct,
yeah.
correct. So basically, they see the same thing, remote sensing without touching the object, we can get the information. So here also at the time of the COVID, know that there was no concept of touch and find the do you have fever or not. So in that time, thermal camera was very very useful. So using the thermal camera, people can detect what is your temperature, and based on that, they can take any decision. For all reflectance energy, this can only take place during the time. Okay. There is no reflectance energy available from the sun at night. Correct. This we already have done. Now, after that, coming to the active remote sensing. Active remote sensing means same thing like you have the flash. So if you have the flash, it means you can take the photo anytime, either day or night is not a matter. Anytime you can take the photo. Why? Because in your camera you have the flash. So here in active remote sensing have their own energy source for illumination. Active sensors have their own energy source. So they can illuminate, they can read the reflected energy, and they can get the information. The sensor emits radiation which is directly towards the target or target to the investigated. So because of we have our own radiation, we have our own energy, then doesn't matter either this is a rainy season, not rainy season, day, night, anytime we can collect the information. The radiation reflected from that target is detected and measured by the sensor. Advantage of active sensor include the ability to obtain measurement anytime regardless of the time of day or season. So if we are collecting the information with the help of the active sensor, so we no need to wait for day night. Anytime we can collect. Active sensors can be used for examining wavelength that are not, if that I will explain you later. But here the most important thing is what? The most important thing is the active sensor. Active sensors are very costly. Active sensors are very costly. Because of that reason, people are always using the passive sensor only. Okay, so please remember this thing. When maybe in interview people can ask you the question, ki what is the difference between the active sensor and passive sensor? So the active sensor, basically we are getting the information in any time, day or night. But if we are working with the passive sensor can collect the information only in sunlight. Whenever sun is available, then only active sensor will work and give the information. Now after that, so we have seen two categories. One is based on the altitude. Second one is the based on the sensor. Now, as I told you, ki remote sensing is the science. Remote sensing is the technology. Using that, we can get the information of the object without touching, without any physical contact, without any without any direct touch. We can get the information. That is the beauty of the remote sensing. And if you are taking the photo using the camera, that is also remote sensing. If we are collecting the information through drone, that is the remote sensing. If we are collecting the information through aircraft, that is the remote sensing. We are getting the images from the satellite, that is also remote sensing. So now whenever we are talking about the remote sensing, so we people are putting the camera or people are putting the sensors on different platforms. So there are three type of platforms we have. One is the ground base, second one is the airborne sensors or airborne platform, and third one is the satellite. So whenever we are talking about the ground base means this height of this kind of remote sensing is only 50 meter. When this is up to 50 kilometer, this is the airborne. So airborne means all your drone, helicopter, airplane, these all kind of survey, these all kind of data capturing process, or these all kind of remote sensing comes under the airborne airborne platforms. If the height of this platforms is more than 50 or more than 100 kilometer, then it will come under the satellite. So now I think you understood. A satellite is what? Satellite is just a platform. On on the satellite, we have the sensors. Okay. Even the this ground based station or airborne station, everywhere ultimately we have the sensors. These sensors are basically useful to collect the information. So we have three type of platform: ground based, airborne, and satellite. Platform advantage and disadvantages also we can see. So we have the ground based sensor or ground based platform is basically, this is the flexible availability useful for real time application. So if you guys have seen or not, I don't know, in major cities now these days, police are basically tracking the speed of the vehicle through that kind of camera. So this camera is movable. They can fit anywhere. They can fit on the on roof of the car. They can keep anywhere. Okay, and they can get the information about your speed, and based on that they can send challan. So ground based platform or ground based remote sensing, we have flexibility to move here and there. UAV. UAV means like your drones. Okay. So flexible availability, relatively low cost, very high spatial resolution, and changeable sensor. So whenever we are talking about the drone sensor, so using the drone sensor or using the drone remote sensing, we can basically get very, very high resolution image, because it will provide you 5 centimeter, 4 centimeter accuracy. So basically you can easily recognize the feature which length is 5 centimeter. 5 centimeter is very high. Okay. So UAV, what is the backdrop? May required certificate to operate, may be limited to height. Process data is in field image, so maybe error prone, and geographic distortion. So actually, whenever we are talking about the drone survey, so like in India, you cannot fly the drone everywhere. Okay, you cannot fly the drone everywhere. So if you want to fly the drone, you have to take the permission from the government. You have to take the permission from the police. So if you will get the permission, then only you can fly and get the image. There is a restriction of the height. Till that height only you can take the photo. Process data in field image, so maybe error prone. So basically in field we are doing and we are getting the information through field. So and this is a completely manual process. So maybe there is a high chance of the error. Aircraft remote sensing, relatively flexible availability, relatively high spatial and resolution, and changeable sensor. So here, whenever we are going little bit more altitude, then we will reach to the aircraft based remote sensing. Its cost is higher than the UAV. Satellite, you guys already know. Satellite means some free images are available, clear and stable images, large area coverage, historical data. So there are many websites out there where you can get the historical data, maybe that historical data is like before 1 year or before 6 months. Now after that, the satellite remote sensing is basically will cover a large area. Okay, and here because we are doing the satellite based remote sensing, so all the data we can store in the ground station. The satellite remote sensing cost is very high. Cloud maybe create problem. Fixed schedule may need to sort through many images for the information. So actually, whenever we are talking about the satellite based remote sensing, so this cost is what? Cost is very high if you are going with the high resolution image. Some of the satellite remote sensing or some of the satellite images are basically we can free to download and free to use. But whatever the images are very updated image, these all images we need to pay. So these are the advantage and disadvantages of what? These are the advantage and disadvantage of the platforms. Okay, guys. So this is all about today's session. So we have